Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of EduSmart's Professional Development Series. My name is Devanshi Mathur, and I will be your MC tonight. I'll also be monitoring the chat, so please keep an eye on that. We have a jam-packed session planned for you here today, so I'm not going to waste a moment. I'm going to just go ahead and introduce the man of the hour. Please give your warmest welcome to EduSmart's very own Director of Customer Experience, Mark Dunk.
Hi, everyone. Let me get my, Devanshi, I need permission to share.
There we go.
I didn't pay Devanshi the fee this time.
Yeah.
Yep. She's blocking me out, so I'll remember that. All right. Okay, so let me get everything started here. All right, thank you for joining us today. What I'm going to talk about today are what we have in our LMS as far as things that teachers can use to track what the students are doing as teachers assign things to the students inside of EduSmart. I will talk about what we call an analysis report for our state assessments, that the products that we have for that. And we have something new that is not available yet, but I will be previewing what we're calling a progress monitoring report. And throughout the whole thing, I'll be discussing instructional strategies and intervention strategies as we take a look at these different reporting processes that we've built into EduSmart. So for the assignment reports, what you will see as a teacher inside of EduSmart, you'll see reports for three different things that you can do inside of EduSmart. One are reports for individual lesson components. The other is reporting for our quizzes and our assessments. And then the third is kind of a hybrid. It's a report that shows you the progress on what we call assignment playlists. We have two ways of approaching that. We have pre-builts that we have put together for you. And you also have the ability in our LMS to create and curate your own assignment playlists. The reporting pieces that are available inside of EduSmart are available through the My Groups area when you're logged in as a teacher. And currently, these are the different areas that a teacher can go in to start monitoring the progress for things that they've assigned to their students. As of probably in another week or so, there will be another tile added as soon as we finish the progress monitoring reports. And I'll talk about those in a little bit more detail later. There are three ways to look at the assignment reports. The assignment status is kind of a real high-level view. It's just, what are the students doing? Are they engaging in the assignments? And so on. For deeper understanding of how the students are doing, you can go to what we call the group assignment and group assessment reports. These are going to show you the assignments that have been pushed out to the students, and you can drill down to get as much detail as you want on the performance of the students. The other way that you can look at that same data is from what we call the student assignment report and the student assessment report. Once again, it's the same data, but instead of looking at it in terms of groups of students, you actually pick a student, and then you're only looking at that individual student's information. So that we feel like that's very helpful because very often you're looking for a particular kid. You may need to target some intervention for them, or you want to check on their performance. And you can do that by just going directly to that student's information. The other beneficial aspect of that is for a parent-teacher meeting, you can exclude all the other students' information and only show the student that is involved in that meeting. So if you look at the first button, which is the assignment status, What you'll notice over here on the right are a list of all the different things that I've assigned to my students if I'm the teacher. And this can be individual lesson components. For example, here's a word explorer, or it can be some of our quizzes or assessments, or it can be actual playlists, which are combinations of lesson components. It's going to show the due date, but not a whole lot of detailed information. You can get a little bit more information from this view by going over here and clicking on this report button. What that takes you to is a level that shows you a little bit more information on that particular assignment. So for example, I chose this assignment playlist that contains student review, an interactivity, a reader, a word explorer, and a quiz. And it shows my 4 students and their status and how much time they've spent. So, not a lot of good information or really usable information at this point. This is just designed to give you a real quick look. Have my students started the assignment? Have some of them completed it? Are they, if it's marked completed, are they spending what I consider to be a reasonable amount of time in that particular assignment? So if it's a pretty long assignment and they're speeding through it, you will be able to have evidence of that on this overall report. The next level that we have for the assignment reporting is the group assignments. And the way this works is at the top level, you start out once again with a list of all the assignments, the due dates, and basic completion status. To get more information on one particular assignment, you click on the report button. So for example, if you look at the results for a student review, this is the information that is going to be presented for you. One of the reasons why I put this presentation together the way I did is because I want to highlight the different ways that we are providing assessment for the different lesson components in EduSmart. We've actually been doing this for a while. We don't only rely on multiple choice for assessment. And actually, this is becoming a very good strategy because in the very near future, teachers and students will start to see on the state tests, they will start to see assessment items that are variations of multiple choice or totally different types of assessment item questions. So one of the things I'm going to show you here are the different varieties of assessment reporting that we're showing to you so that you can take a look at that as you're considering instruction, you're monitoring your students. You may be looking for specific things to target intervention with those students. So for student reviews, the student review, if you're not familiar, it's basically a video-based review of all the key concepts in one of our instruction modules. But it's not just informational review. These student reviews also include 3 formative assessment questions. These are a variety of different types of questions. There can be multiple choice, fill in the blank, drag and drop. There could be choose from a list. There are quite a variety just in the student review area. The way we do the assessment piece is not letter grades or number grades. We require the students to attempt to get the correct answer twice and assign them gold stars as a result. So if they get the correct answer on the first attempt, they get a gold star. If they miss it, but then get the correct answer on the second attempt, they get a half of a gold star. So at the end, the students and you would see the cumulative gold stars that they've earned for those 3 questions. So for example, Joey has opened the student review, but he got 0 out of 0 gold stars. Maria got all 3 answers correct on the first attempt. So once again, not a letter grade or number grade, but it is a very, very valid means of assessment to let you know how these students are doing. So we could think one of two things on Joey. He either rushed through it and didn't care, or he's really trying and he's really struggling because he did not answer any of the questions after 2 attempts each. For the science readers, we have a mix of 4 objective questions that can be graded, and then 1 that is an open-ended response question. In the teacher report, you get immediate results on the objective questions, how many they got correct out of 4. But then to see the open-ended response, you actually have to drill down and open the student's science reader quiz. This will give you a view of the quiz. It'll show you the student responses. So for example, on number 3, the student chose C, but this one had 2 correct answers, B and D. He did get number 4 correct. And then to analyze his open-ended response, we give a recommended answer, and then you can compare that to what the student came up with to get an idea of how they're doing. So once again, you can certainly do the 4 out of 4 as a grade if you want to do that as a rubric, but you do have to look into the quizzes to see those open-ended responses. The interactivities, notice they're also with a 3 gold star system, but the interactivities are really designed to be kind of a game for the student to play. It's almost like a lab activity, but it's set up so that it's kind of a game-based system. And the better the student does as they go through the game and interact with the different challenges and requests that are given to them, the more gold stars they get. And what's nice about this is we encourage the students to repeat this activity if they didn't do too well the first time. But on the teacher side, you get to see how many attempts they made. So for example, Wade had 1 attempt and he got 2 out of 3 gold stars. Samantha got 3 out of 3 gold stars, but it took her 3 attempts to get to that level. So once again, not a number grade or letter grade. You could certainly do a rubric to go with the gold stars if you wanted to, but we just wanted to purposefully design a slightly different style of assessment into this particular lesson component. Our word explorers, this takes a little bit of explanation. The way the word explorers are laid out is this will show you how many words are in that particular word explorer. So for example, this one had 5 words. So both of these students completed all 5 of the words in the assignment. In our word explorers, each word has 3 activities. There's a visual examples, non-examples, and then there's a statements of fact, examples, non-examples, and the third activity is a formative assessment in the form of a drag and drop. So if you do the math here, 5 words, each word has 3 activities. 5 times 3 is 15. This column is significant because what we do in the Word Explorer is require the students to try to get the correct answer at least twice. If they do not get the answer after the second attempt, they get the option for our system to show them the correct answers, and we call that a lifeline. So what's nice about it is on your reporting side, you get to see how many lifelines the students took advantage of. So, and then you also see how much total time they spent. One thing that I do want to point out in the Word Explorer is that the first 2 activities are multiple choice, but they are multiple choice that can have more than one correct answer. So once again, the students are going to have the ability to practice with these alternative assessment style questions in the Word Explorers. And it may take some getting used to for them because they will see a multiple choice question and a lot of them will immediately think there's one answer. Well, the instructions clearly state that there are 1 or more correct answers. So the students have to really pay attention to that. So once the students have completed this, then you can take a look at this and make some decisions based on the effectiveness of your instruction, or perhaps this in this particular topic, the particular student may need some intervention, may need to have some additional background on this particular topic. So for example, Joey, he did 15 activities in 3 minutes. So chances are he probably didn't spend a lot of quality time doing all 15 of those activities. Notice he also relied on the lifelines 14 out of 15 times. So, my guess is he's living up to his name, Joey Clicker, and he was just clicking all the way through to get finished with the activity. This could be an indication that he's struggling, but me as the teacher, I would think if he's struggling that he would have spent more than 3 minutes total doing 15 questions. So, there again, it's not a traditional assessment style, but it does give you a lot of detailed information. Contrast that with Maria. She finished all 5. She only had to use 2 of 15 lifelines, and she spent between 2 and 3 minutes per activity. So chances are this is a pretty legitimate result for her, because you can't cheat on this. You can answer it on the first or second attempt. So she only needed a lifeline twice. So that means there were only 2 questions where she didn't answer it, at least on the second attempt. And she spent a good amount of time in there. The assessment reports, you can actually, the assessments actually show up in the assignment information, but we have a separate tab for that, so that if you just want to go in and look at quizzes or assessments, you can do that. When you look at the assessment reports, the first thing you will see is a list of all the assessments that have been assigned. And this shows you how many students, how many have completed it. So not a lot of detailed information, but enough information to let you know if you're just interested in engagement. Have they started the assignment? Do I need to, issue some kind of a encouragement or a threat to them to start their work, something like that. Notice also there are other tabs. In Texas, we have unit tests, reporting category tests, and star practice tests. In Florida, we have the SSA practice test tab, and so you'll have at least 2 options here. You'll have the quiz option, and then depending on what state you're in, you will see a tab for those state assessments. Now, let's say I want to look at more specific information for one of these quizzes. Once again, I go over here on the right, I click on one of the report buttons, and now for this assessment, I'm now looking at all the students who have been assigned that assessment. I'm looking at their first attempt. We do have the ability for you to duplicate a quiz and reassign it if you want to assign a retest, and this will keep track of the most recent attempts. The next level of detail allows you to actually drill down and look at each individual student's information. So for example, if I'm worried about Joey or Marta because they made such low scores, I can click on this report button and I can get a deeper dive into just that particular quiz. So for example, here I chose Joey again because he only made a 20 on the quiz, and I see some very important information. He answered 2 out of 10 questions correct. He didn't even try to answer 2 other questions, and he missed the rest of them. Also, notice for a 10-question quiz, he spent 1 minute. So there again, maybe he needs to change his last name because he is living up to the legacy of being Joey Clicker. In this view, after you see this panel that shows the overall results, you can actually scroll through and see each quiz question and what the student answered for that question. So for example, on this one, this is the correct answer, but Joey chose this one as the correct choice. So if they get the correct response, it'll verify that they got the correct response on here. So a little bit more traditional. It's an actual number grade that you can use, but please take advantage of the extra information that we give you, the time they spent, and then actually being able to analyze the answers that they gave, because that'll give you a lot of insight, especially if you're looking at students who may require some intervention down the road. The other way, again, just like with the assignment reporting, you can also look at a student assignment report that looks like this. This is going to show the student names and all the assignments that have been assigned to that student. And then to drill down to more specific information, once again, it's the same pattern. You click on the report button. So let's say I want to drill down and look specifically at assignments given to one of these students. This time I've looked at Marta, and this is a list of all the assignments that I've assigned to Marta, shows me the completion status, and shows me the time spent. And now, once again, I can drill down to the next level and look at the report. So you've already seen the way that the lesson component reports look. You've also seen the way the assignments look. So depending on whether, like for Word Explorer, this would show only Marta's results for the Word Explorer. This would only show Marta's quiz results, and so on. So once again, it's real ideal if you want to zoom in on one particular student who you know may be struggling, or if you're setting up for a parent-teacher meeting. So you can have it filtered for only that student. So the next level, notice I chose Marta and that Word Explorer. She completed all 7. She only spent 3 minutes doing 21 activities. She used 18 out of 21 lifelines. So, you know, once again, if you're sitting down with the parents, or if you're trying to analyze the student, you know, they really rushed through this. They tried to do 21 separate activities in 3 minutes. And as a consequence, they had to rely on the lifelines very, very heavily. This is, if you filter out just the assessments, works the same way. You would click on a report to go to the more detailed information. This is all of the assignments given to Joey. And then if I want to zoom in on a particular assignment, I click the report button. And once again, I can see that same view that we talked about earlier. Okay. Have any questions come up, Devanshi, so far before I continue?
No questions yet for you, Mark.
Okay, great. Thank you. The next report that I want to talk about is the item analysis report. Currently, that is available for our assessments. So that would be the STAR practice test in Texas and the SSA practice test in Florida. And that just looks like a very traditional item analysis report that you might get. I think in Texas, these actually get sent out. I believe in Florida, they don't necessarily always share this detailed information, at least with down to the teacher level. But this is nice because we organize it so that you know what standards are covered, what depth of knowledge that particular question was, and then it will show you. So for example, on this question, only 1 out of 4 students chose the correct answer. So that could be a red flag to me to take a look at these standards. And since all the incorrect responses were response D, I need to look at that. And I need to figure out, why are my students distracted and choosing that answer choice D as the correct answer? I may need to do some reteaching, or maybe there are just some specific students who need some additional help or some intervention with that. Now, These, the next thing that I'm going to talk about, these don't exist on the customer side of EduSmart yet. This is a sneak preview. If you're on this webinar, you're lucky because you get to see something that hasn't been released yet. And I don't know about you, but I always feel special when I get special information like that. So hope you're impressed with what we're doing, because what we're really trying to do here is get as much data in the teacher's hands as possible, as quickly as possible, so that you can do the reteaching and do the interventions that are necessary, especially if you're at one of those tested grade levels. There are basically going to be 3 levels to this current reporting. And I do have to say that there may be some subtle changes to these because this is still not completely finished yet. This is correct, I believe, as of today, or this morning anyway. It may have changed a little bit during the day. But the top level would be for a district administrator who has multiple campuses. And so notice there's a lot of controls here. The administrator could choose a grade to look at. They could look at either quizzes or the different assessments that we have. And then in Texas, we have unit tests, we have reporting category tests, and we have practice tests. In Florida, this would be the SSA practice, and we only have 2 practice tests in Florida currently. You would submit that, make your choices, the administrator would submit that, and then they could see at a school level how the students are doing. Notice that there is a scroll bar side to side as well as up and down, so the administrator can scroll through all the different standards and all the different schools. For this one, I chose grade 5 in Texas. So what would be seen here are grades 3, 4, and 5 standards, because you've got grades 3 and 4 supporting standards, and then the grade 5 reporting standards. Florida would be similar. Grade 5, you would have fair game standards from the previous grades that would show up. The next level, to access the next level, the administrator would click on one of these school names. So for example, I'm going to click on school number 2. And at this level, notice that there is going to be a similar dashboard for both administrators and teachers. The one that I'm showing here is the administrator dashboard. The teacher dashboard is, they're putting the finishing touches on that, but I can describe both from this view. If you're an administrator, now what you've done is you've chosen a school. So now you're going to see a list of all the teachers who are teaching science at that school and each teacher's class groups. So you can actually go row by row. It's going to be a teacher and a particular class group, and then you can scroll back and forth to see the overall performance for the different standards as you go through that. On the teacher view of this, we're going to remove this teacher column because, I mean, the teacher knows who they are, and they're not going to be able to see other teachers' information. So on the teacher view for this, they will start by seeing their groups, so they can look at group data side by side. The next level, again, is going to be available to both teachers and administrators, and that's going to be accessible by clicking on one of these class periods. So if I click on a class period, the next level that I see, the next level I see is going to be where I can actually see each individual student. Okay, so I can do this as an administrator. So I would be able to know that this is a certain teacher, a certain group of students under that teacher, and then I can look at the results for each of those students. On the teacher view, you would be able to see the same thing. And so you can scroll back and forth, and you can take a look at how the performance is looking for the students for each of the standards. This color-coded chart In Texas and in Florida, we've done our best to match what the states are putting out there for the acceptable ranges and the wording that is used in each of those two states. The idea here is once this is released, I believe we're going to give the administrators the ability to change these ranges. So if they actually want to change the ranges to better match their school, they will have that option. Okay. Any questions before I move on? Because that is a new feature. I don't know the exact release date on that, but the way you will know if you're a teacher is on that main report dashboard where you now see 5 buttons, you will see a 6th button that says progress monitoring.
We don't seem to have any questions yet, Mark.
Okay, all right, thank you. And then the last part of my presentation, what I want to do is try to get you to think about all the different types of data that you've been able to collect in all the examples that I've been showing you. Some traditional grades, some more untraditional styles of assessment questions and ways of assessing progress by students. And what this last section is going to show you is a sequence of sample activities that you can use once you've monitored that data and analyzed that data that you've collected so that you can do some potential intervention with your students. And I do want to give a tip of the hat to Lisa on our team, who's also on this on this webinar. She's the one who came up with these examples. So I'm simply sharing her information with everybody. So the area that we'll look at here are visual support, vocabulary, once again with our Word Explorer, and then some sample ideas for content core review. The picture that you're seeing here is actually a screenshot from one of our instruction modules. So what Lisa has done is she has put this into the context of the first step of this activity is called frame it. So what you do is you would show the students this image and then present them with this question that's over on the right. What science topic is illustrated here? And you could ask for their input. And I'll pause a few seconds to see if anybody wants to be brave enough to put an answer in the chat, just like you were my actual students. What science topic do you think is illustrated by this picture? All right, it's the end of the day. I guess I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. You're probably all very tired, so I'll go ahead. So the basic idea that is trying to be brought across here is the idea that this image is representing sunlight. So now the next step of this is, okay, we've identified sunlight, but now we want to name what the sunlight does for living organisms like grass. So once again, this is just a technique, frame it, name it, and you could get your students to discuss this. And then the idea that we're looking for here is the sunlight is the grass is utilizing the sunlight to make food. Our word explorers, again, are going to have a lot of very rich, colorful pictures and images. And I do want to put a plug in for EduSmart in the way that we continually focus on visual literacy in our products. You will see in many instances, very, very high quality images and graphics that support the science information that you're having to convey to your students. So these are just examples of screenshots from our Word Explorer that you could use, and you could just present these to the students and have them do some, small group discussions or whole class discussions to try to get from them if they are understanding the concepts behind these. Some other ways that you could leverage some other EduSmart lesson components for content review. Our student reviews, once again, are real good for that because they are actually designed, as their name implies, they're designed for the students to use to review the main concepts and the key concepts. Once again, very visually stimulating for the students. And remember that the student reviews also include 3 formative assessment questions that are tracked. Another way that is very effective and very visually rich for the students are to use our science readers. And this is an example of a cover of one of those science readers. In our LMS, each unit has a quiz, and in the case of Florida, some units will have multiple quizzes because the quizzes are tied to individual standards. And what I want to recommend to you is, instead of always just assigning the quizzes to the students, you can take advantage of the teacher presentation side of the EduSmart quizzes and assessments. So for example, this is one of the questions from one of the quizzes in 3.9B in Texas. But notice that I have a lot more options than if I was just pushing this out to the students and asking the students to take a quiz. The first thing I'd like you to notice is that if you want to go through these quizzes, these quiz questions with your students, you can actually turn off the answer choices. You can hide the answer choices, which forces the students to look at the question without being distracted by some of these answer choices. In the case of an image or a picture or a graphic, that would also force the students to pay attention to that image or graphic. Another great tool that this can be used for is to teach test taking strategies also. So you could hide the answers and then force them to discuss with you what they see in this picture. And if they do that successfully, chances are they have probably already answered or can very easily answer the question at that point. And then you can display the answer choices anytime that you want to. There's a check answer that actually shows in green and red what the correct and incorrect responses are. So this can be a very interactive activity with your students. Even though we call it a quiz, you could use it from the teacher perspective to cover content or cover certain areas that need intervention, need some additional information with the students. Notice we've also now put text-to-speech into the teacher side of the quizzes. So you can actually have this read out loud to the student. All the answer choices can be read out loud to the student. That's probably not particularly helpful for the teacher side, but on the student side, this is what the student would see if you assigned a quiz to the student. And notice we also have the text-to-speech now on the student side as well. So if you choose to assign the quiz or the assessment to the students, they now have this additional accommodation where they can have the question read out loud to them. They can have each answer choice read out loud to them before they come up with the correct answer. And I think I finished 1 minute earlier than I thought I would. So wanted to make sure that we have some time for some questions.
Thank you so much, Mark. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Do we have any questions for Mark Dunk here about anything at all that he's covered here today?
I like Ms. Garcia's comment. I like the pictures. That's one of the things that first attracted me to EduSmart was just the colorful pictures, the images, the graphics, that engaging, because that tends to always be a challenge for teachers to find that. So it's not just words on a PowerPoint screen. to have that visually stimulating information is so crucial.
I agree. So we have a few more minutes for our Q&A, and I know sometimes it takes a moment to either type out your question or to come and figure out how to phrase it before you unmute yourself. Just some closing remarks. Thank you so much, Mark, for taking time out of your schedule to speak with us today about how to use EduSmart for data responsive instruction. And for all of you who've attended here today, next week you'll be receiving an email from me with instructions on how to get your CPE certificate, as well as a recording and a copy of Mark Dunk's slide deck here. So with that, do we have any questions for Mark? We have Marta Garcia, very thorough information on EduSmart. Great job, Mark. This was very helpful.
Thank you, Mary.
Well then, with that, I'm just going to go ahead and officially wrap us up, but we will be here for a few more minutes if you do have any questions. So thank you so much, Mark. Thank you everybody for joining us here today, and we will see you all in 2 weeks for our next webinar. Thank you everybody, and I hope you have a wonderful evening. And for those of you who do have questions or would like to chat with Mark, feel free to unmute yourselves. And yeah, hope you all have a great evening. Thank you, everybody.